Okay, so I hope you guys can all see the screen. But today's topic is climate change and global wars. So those are the two main issues that are going around in the world. So we're going to discuss those. First, this was our world a couple thousand years ago. It seems pretty peaceful in this picture. It's a picture of our Earth, but as time progresses, this is basically what our world has become. So you can see there are a couple of houses, but still most of the land is pretty undiscovered by human species, and it's kind of like still covered in wood. So the Earth is still pretty peaceful in this picture. But as time progresses, this is kind of how our world is becoming. So it's kind of split in half. And on the left, you can see like different cities and other human developments. But on the right, you can see that humans are also kind of destroying the world. You can see the amount of fossil fuel that is used. So I pointed out here that these black smokes and this kind of like puddle of like black object is this liquid is called fossil fuel. So by burning it, we're kind of creating this black smoke. So I'm going to explain later why this is important and why this is causing climate change that is happening in our world. But this final picture here is this is kind of like how our world is becoming. So again, you can see it's the same kind of Earth, but it's really dark. It has, again, a lot of these black smokes that are coming out, and you might be wondering, how did this happen? What is happening? And you might be wondering what all this black smoke and other stuff around here is. So it was once a beautiful Earth, but now it's turning into this kind of mess. So this is called climate change. This is a really a global issue that is happening right now. But you might be wondering, what is climate change? Is it the Earth kind of changing climates? And how would that be possible? And how do you know that it's real? Those are the kind of questions that you may have. And about the climate change, well, the climate is a long-term weather pattern. You can see on the left here, that's the definition. So the climate in maybe in your area might be dry and kind of like it's dependent on the location of where you are in the earth, but climate generally is the long-term weather pattern. So it can be rainy, it can be dry, it can be humid, and other climates apply. But climate change is an overall increase in the change in, let's say, rain, temperature, and wind patterns over a long period of time. So on the left, you can see kind of like the Earth heating. It's steady, but it's the Earth is surely heating up. And you can see on the right there is increased amount of rain. And there still can be cold weather and cold places. It doesn't always mean that the Earth is heating up. Um, Climate change just means that the Earth is like it can increase in temperature, but it also increases in um like climate, like rain and wind patterns. So I hope you guys had a better understanding of what climate change is, but you might be wondering what's the cause? It's us humans. So you might be like saying, what? No way. How is it us that is causing the problem? Well, it might be not everyone directly, but humans are the cause of climate change. So I have this kind of graph here. So here is like the average temperature of the Earth as time progresses. So you can see here, it remained pretty steady until, let's say, the mid 1900s, but it suddenly started skyrocketing in temperature. And you can see that it increased by about like point 5 degrees in total lately, but it's about to increase even further as time progresses. So you can see here the average temperature increased by a lot over the past few years. And this is kind of like the before and after picture of the North Pole. So on the left, there was quite a lot of ice. But after, you can see that this is basically dry land over there. There's no ice remaining, and this is the cause of um, climate change. Again, because climate change um, increase, increases the rate of rain and also increases the temperature. So all the ice kind of melts off in the North Pole, and this sort of dry land on the right appears. So this is what's kind of going on because of us humans. So, but what exactly are humans doing that is causing all this problem? Well, there are three main reasons that I'm going to be talking about. On the left, here the black smokes that you have been seeing, these fumes that are coming out, and you might be wondering what all these structures are. Why is it causing this climate change? And in the middle, here are actually cows. So we're going to be talking about how agriculture, how like keeping up the cows can affect climate change. And on the right, this person is burning down the forest or cutting the forest down. And that can also affect climate change. Well, first cause, we're going to be talking about the black fumes, the fossil fuels. Well, fossil fuels are a great source of energy when it is burned. So, people try to burn fossil fuel in order to gain energy, which can be used in a lot of stuff. So, um, they will often try to find all the fossil fuels available and try to burn it all up. And these fossil fuels were formed from living creatures a long time ago. So that's how it is formed. That's why it's called a fossil fuel. So it kind of like is a fossil of living creatures a long time ago. But again, if you burn it, you gain a lot of energy. But at the same time, even though you earn a lot of energy, you can see the amount of carbon dioxide that is fuming out of this tube. So this tube is where they burn fossil fuels. And if you burn it, these black smokes comes out. And those are basically carbon dioxide. So why is that important? Well, the carbon dioxide that is being emitted are called greenhouse gases. So I listed the definition down here. So the greenhouse gases are gases that trap heat inside Earth. So the more carbon dioxide that is released, the more temperature increase and the more precipitation or the amount of rain that is going to be affected. So this really is the cause of climate change and global warming because again, they trap the heat inside Earth. And we constantly want to use the energy by the fossil fuels. So I have this really fun video where you guys can possibly understand what this fossil fuel is in more detail. It's a brain pop video, but I hope really you guys enjoy this. So here is the video. So fun video about fossil fuels, and I hope you guys were able to see that fossil fuels were used in a lot of different cases. Um, Again, fossil fuels are our primary sources of energy. So they are basically used for anything that requires like moving, that requires any parts of heating up or moving in like mechanical fields. So they are used to burn up and produce that energy to kind of say drive a car. That was the most simple usage. So you can see how it is used in our daily lives and how it is affecting by releasing these carbon dioxide. So yeah, here's another picture of the greenhouse gas. So carbon dioxide is on the left here. It's the CO2. So you can see that these carbon dioxide are trapping the heat. You can see the heat coming from the sun and it's reflecting off of Earth, but it's going back into Earth because of all these greenhouse gases. That's why it's called the greenhouse gases. If you've seen a greenhouse, um, it kind of traps the heat inside to make the plants grow faster. But in this case, it's doing that to Earth. So these are all the greenhouse gases that are affecting the Earth. Now, the cause number two. The second cause is animals. So you might be wondering, how do animals um, cause like global warming and climate change? Well, humans love to grow animals for many foods and materials. Let's say for cows, we take the meat and also the milk. So cows are very useful. So humans try to keep them alive and kind of make the best use out of them. But the interesting part is that the cow's fart produces methane, which is another greenhouse gases. But the thing is that methanes are a way stronger greenhouse gases than carbon dioxide. So you can see on the picture at the right bottom here. So this cow is farting out methane. So uh, they can be a really primary source of climate change. You can see here that the cow is farting out this kind of molecule. It's the CH4. That is called methane. So all of these kind of methane is released into our atmosphere and it's serving as the greenhouse gases. So again, animals like cows fart can produce methane and that can change our climate overall in our world. So that is cause number two. The cause number three, and probably one of the most important causes, is deforestation. So basically, trees are very important part in our Earth. So trees can take in carbon dioxide and produce fresh oxygen. So our body needs oxygen. So what trees are doing is that you guys may have heard this in one of your science classes, but trees take in carbon dioxide. So they take in all these CO2 molecules and they produce oxygen. So they're really helpful. They take in all the harmful greenhouse gases out from the air and they produces useful oxygen into the air. So you can see how everything is kind of like trees are making everything better, making it to normal states. So taking in the bad stuff and producing all the good stuff for us. So trees are very useful. But humans have been taking down trees in order to create more space for themselves. So what people have been doing is that they have been cutting trees or burning down forests, as you can see on the picture, right? This person is burning down the forest um, in order to create more land for themselves. Maybe they want to build a company there, so that's why they're cutting off all the trees and burning. But they're actually harming themselves because, again, trees are very important. Trees take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, but they're cutting them down, so we're increasing this amount of carbon dioxide in the air. We're not regulating them and turning them into useful things. So that is how deforestation can cause climate change and global warming in general. So that was cause number three, deforestation. But you might be asking, okay, the Earth is changing climates and changing temperatures, but what is so bad about that? So, we're going to be talking about the effects of these climate change in more detail. So although let's say a 1 or 2 degrees rise in temperature and possibly an increase in rain doesn't seem much to us humans, but this kind of like steady and rapid change at the same time can be really harmful to other animals or other organisms in general. So some organisms are very sensitive to these climates and temperature changes, and even 1 degree increase of temperature can kill all of them. So um, when you're inside the room and when you're outside the room, the temperatures are very different. So when you step out of your classroom, you don't notice much difference in temperature, but there may have been like 2 or 3 degrees of change. But humans don't really feel much from these small amount of changes. But other animals can be really heavily affected by it. You can see on the left, these polar bears are standing on this small piece of ice. So this has happened because, again, the Earth is heating up, so the ice is all melting. But the main habitats where the polar bears live are on the icebergs. So when the ice melts, they have no place to go, and they basically lose their home. And on the right, here is like the coral reef. Again, these can be really heavily affected by the temperature since they're very sensitive. So going into more detail of polar bears and coral reefs, the basic overall effect is our ecosystem. So ecosystem, if you're wondering, is a system of living creatures that are all working together. So that is called ecosystem. So many animals are severely impacted by this rise of temperature. For example, polar bears, like we talked about. Although they are alive, they don't, they simply don't just die from the change in temperature, but their habitat made out of ice would melt and they would have no place to go and live at all. And the coral reefs on the picture, right? You can see how this beautiful coral reef has turned into this abandoned kind of um, colorless coral reefs. So many corals cannot handle the slight temperature increase, resulting the death of many species. So many species in coral reefs die, and polar bears have no homes to go. So other animals living in these coral reefs can also be affected. I have this video here, and this video kind of shows you the intensity of how polar bears are doing, since I felt like it's really important for you to see how polar bears are affected. And you can see the amount of iceberg that is melting. So here's the video. Bears are doing in the Arctic, so you can see it's not too good. There are, of course, ice shrinking every kind of year, and you can see the amount of ice that turned into water. So it's almost like a sea, but that whole piece of land was originally covered in ice. But because of climate change and temperature increase, all the ice melted and it's now kind of all water. So they have to swim most of the time to get across. Although they could have walked if there were more kind of pieces of ice, and they have no places to live and set up their shelter either. So you can see how they are affected by this climate change. Another kind of effect of climate change is the rising water level. So this threatens us humans too. So ice that melts from global warming and climate change is added to the ocean. So do you guys know what will happen if more ice drops into the ocean? Well, the overall water level will increase. So it kind of makes sense because the Earth has limited amount of water, and the more ice that falls into the ocean will result in the increase in water levels. So if you go alongside oceans, you can possibly see that the water level has risen. So it's going to be more further down into the road. So on the right, you can see many islands are sinking right now because of this rise in water level. You can see on the top here, there's a small island, but the water is slowly swallowing up the island. And on the bottom here, you can see this road is completely covered in water because of this rise in water level. So here is how our human species can be affected by climate change. And more effects are natural disasters. Because of climate change, there are more severe storms, there are more droughts, and as a consequence, there are more wildfires. So there are these drastic climates that can be really harmful to everyone around the world. So basically, this also affects the human health again, because many people can die during this natural disasters. And not only that, the gases in the air are harmful to human beings. So the carbon dioxide, for example, they not only serve as greenhouse gases, but as a pollutant, meaning that if we inhale these gases, it is harmful to our body. So on the left is like a flood or possibly like a storm that has happened. So this like natural disaster is swallowing up this town. And on the right here is the effect of air pollution, the greenhouse gases that are in the air. So everything can be affected by us. So those were some effects. But you might be wondering now, how can we fix it or are we all going to die? So gladly, we can fix it. So what we are currently doing is that since cars burn a lot of fossil fuels, we learn cars require a lot of energy, but fossil fuels are sources a lot of energy. So why not use fossil fuels? But again, this climate change is happening because of these fossil fuels. So instead of driving cars, we can either run or ride bicycles to get to places. So that's what people are doing to kind of um, stop the climate change from happening. Other things that humans are doing is that they're making renewable energy. So they are essentially saving energy. You saw in the video earlier on the brain pop video that fossil fuel is not renewable. It means that once it is used, it is gone forever. So it is a one-time use. But we can use renewable energy, which is energy that we can use again and again. And these are like electricity powered by like the sun. You can see the solar panels here, the wind. You can see wind here, and also the water by using the energy caused by flowing water. So that is some sort of like renewable energy that we are currently using to stop climate change. And the more thing that we can do is planting trees. That is like a more reasonable way of stopping climate change because we can always um, plant new trees in order to make the air more clean. So, because these carbon dioxide are covering our surface of Earth, we can plant trees, and trees can take in carbon dioxide, again, like we talked about, and convert to oxygen that we breathe. Um, and these trees, if we plant more trees, they will consume more carbon dioxide out of the air and make the air more clean. And therefore, there will be no more drastic climate changes and global warming. Those are the basic things that we can do as humans to stop climate change. So yeah, to wrap up about the climate change, here is another brain pop video that kind of summarizes what we have talked about in climate change. So here is the video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this short but fun video. This basically was an overview of what was happening through climate change. So the video talked about the effects, the causes first, of course, such as increase in carbon dioxide into the air, so burning fossil fuels, and the methane that is caused by cow fart and cutting down trees, and the effects like many dying species and many um, disturbed weather patterns like storms and droughts and other stuff that is happening. So I hope it was a fun video. We're kind of wrapped up everything that I've talked about. But now we're going to be shortly talking about the wars that is going on right now. So that is another sort of like global issue that is happening. So wars are, as you may know, it's a violent conflict between nations. So they may fight for land, or they might fight for money, fight for status, and many other things. And there are many reasons why two big nations will fight each other. Um, and this fight is often led by the army, but it is a really sad and tragic event where many soldiers and even innocent people die because of wars. And I believe it is good to know what is happening around the world and to give you guys an idea of what sort of conflicts and wars and fighting that is happening around the world. So there are two main kind of wars that I want to talk about. Um, First one is happening over here, and this is kind of like the whole world map. And Ghana is of course over here, in the continent of Africa. So Ghana is over here. But the wars that are we're going to be talking about are located way over here and also way over here. So this first small dot here you can see is the cost of Israel and Hamas war. So the Israel-Hamas war is a fight between Israel and a group called Hamas, which started when Hamas attacked Israel. So this led to a very heavy fighting between nations, causing a lot of deaths and damage to both the countries. And um, the fact about wars is that the other countries may also help each other as well. So other countries may have also been involved. But basically, the war started when Hamas decided to get their land back from Israel. So they were basically fighting over the piece of land. And I have this video here, and it kind of gives you the history behind all this in simple terms. And it gives you an idea of why this Israel-Hamas war is happening. So it's like a really short video. I hope you guys are able to understand better out of it. So yeah, here it is.
going There is a war going on in the Middle East between the country of Israel and a group called Hamas, which controls the territory called the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, so I hope you guys were able to see from the video of and get a basic sense of what is happening between Israel and the Palestinians. So, as you can see, originally, Palestinians were this small group where they were refugees of other causes of wars. So they kind of fled to this place called the Gaza Strip, and that is where most of them lived. But Israel basically controlled that place by kind of like setting a barrier and restricting all the Palestinians from leaving and entering. So they were very restricted. So the Palestine didn't want that. So a group again called Hamas, they kind of led a fight with the Israels. So that kind of led to a lot of many innocent people dying. And you can see these pictures of destructions that are caused by both countries. And um, here on the left are the refugees fleeing. So many innocent people try to hide in their bunkers because of all the bombs that are being dropped down. And it's really dangerous to stay outside. So many people are trying to hide probably like underground or in safe shelters. So it's a really sad war that is happening. And um, it is, of course, between the two wars. And the simple fact is their land and their restriction of freedom. So that is the main cause of this war. Yeah, that was Israel and Hamas war. Um, and now the second war that is happening, you can see in this map is this huge chunk here. You can see in the world map this red dot. That is happening. It's called Russia-Ukrainian war. So, a Russia-Ukraine war started because Russia wanted to take control the parts of Ukraine, but Ukraine is fighting to protect its own country. So, other countries are helping to bring peace as well. So, Russia is basically stating that Ukraine is a part of Russia, but Ukraine is arguing that it is their own country. So it's fighting for land, basically. These two countries are fighting for land. So here is
This is
like
it,
a
folks.
video of um what is happening in the Ukraine Russia-Ukraine war. This was actually 21 hours ago. So this is a very recent hot news um where you can see the amount of battles that are happening. So
We need you to send a donation to help elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Now, Ukraine is feeling the full force of Russian aggression as its military is struggling to hold ground in the face of mounting attacks. After the fall of Volodar, Russia claims another victory in Donetsk as it continues.
yeah, this was kind of like a short news where you can see what Russia and Ukraine are fighting for. And again, this was like a video 21 hours ago. So it is very recent and you can see how these tragic, sad things are happening in different places around the world. And again, Russia wants to take uh, Ukraine and they claim it to their country, but Ukraine are kind of striking back, saying that they're their own country and not willing to get taken by Russia. But you can see in the video, Russia is, in terms of power and military, Russia is stronger, so they're kind of forcing their way in. But Ukraine is getting a lot of help from around the world, that kind of other countries who agree with them, so they're fighting together. And again, other countries are trying to bring peace to this war. So yeah, those are the two main wars. First again, the Israel-Hamas war, and the second being the Russia and Ukrainian war. So although these are the two main ones that are happening today, there are other wars that are going around in the world. Um, and there may be soldiers fighting for their lives and innocent people dying even right now at the moment. And we have to hope that it'll be over soon. So you can see in the bottom picture here is the peace sign, kind of like saying make love, not war. So many people are trying to stop this war from happening. And um, it's really good to know for all of you what is going on around the world and kind of tell you how the world is revolving and who is fighting and who is not. So, yeah, I hope you guys were able to learn about both the global warming, the climate change, and the global issues, the wars that are happening. So, yeah, thank you all for listening. And do you guys have any other questions that you might want to ask about this topic for today? So any
Time. Question time. Question time. If you have a question, come and ask. Yes. Hello. Oh, wait, then come and ask your question. We are waiting.
How can you prevent climate change?
sorry, I didn't hear that.
How can you prevent climate change?
Speak louder.
How can you prevent climate change?
How can we stop climate change, or
How can we prevent climate change?
how we can prevent climate change? Okay, I can share my screen again and return to that slide. Okay. So, because the main issue are these pollutants, carbon dioxide that is released into the air. So we want to not use those fossil fuels because fossil fuels cause climate change. So instead of using fossil fuels as energy, we can like stop using cars and probably start running and instead riding bicycles. And the other kind of way to stop climate change is saving electricity and kind of using renewable energy. So instead of this single-use fossil fuels, you can instead using this solar-powered energy, the wind-powered, the water-powered, and you can also kind of like save electricity in order to stop climate change. And you can also plant trees. So these are kind of like the main ways you can prevent climate change. And because plants can take in carbon dioxide and kind of filter the air, it is a really great way to stop this climate change. So yeah, any more questions? Again, because papers and like other paper related stuffs are made from trees, so we want to save the amount of trees that we use. So because again, papers are made out of trees, we can limit ourselves and not use as much paper. So that is another things that you guys can do. So don't waste paper is what I'll say. Yeah. So that is one thing that you guys can do to prevent climate change. Is there any other question?
Any other question? Any other question? You have a question? Come and ask and let's.
If you don't have any questions, that's also fine. But so yeah,
How can we stop deforestation and to avoid climate change?
sorry, I didn't hear you very clearly.
JB, he said, how can we stop deforestation and avoid climate change?
Did you talk about like the Palestinian war? Or if you're talking about that, it's I just wanted to let you guys know it's like just a war that is happening. So there isn't really like much that we can do to kind of stop Palestinian war. But if you're talking about the climate change, I also heard that you're interested in preventing climate change. Again, like I said before, to the other students, we can conserve energy. So, because the light sources, the light bulbs that you use are they use fossil fuels in order to produce energy. So maybe saving the amount of light that you use or just saving the amount of papers that you use can stop climate change. So if you use your paper to write, maybe you can save the paper by writing smaller or filling up the entire paper before throwing it away. So um, so because papers are made out of trees, you can save papers or you can also save electricity. So that's what you can do to prevent climate change.
Any other?
No.
All right.
Okay. So if you don't have any other questions, next week we're going to be talking about famous people around the world. So we're going to be learning about some famous people in the past and currently. So it'll be pretty fun. So yeah, I'll see you next week. And bye everyone.